Hey everybody! Welcome to another Cricut Craft tutorial. Today I'm really excited to show you guys how to make rolled paper flowers. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to my channel. That subscribe button should be right below here, big red box. And hit the bell icon also right here. That'll let you know when I post a new video. So, with the rolled paper flowers, there's a lot of different designs that you can make. I have 7 different styles here that we're going to learn how to make. I hope you guys can see them pretty well, but there are lots of different really cute designs. They're all available in Design Space, as I throw one, but they're all available in Design Space. If you don't have access, they are 99 cents a piece. With access, they are included. Let's go over to Design Space and I'll show you guys all the codes you need to look them up. We're in Design Space, and in order to find the flowers that we're going to make, you can actually look them up by their ID number, which I will list all of our ID numbers below, and then I'll make a little sign so you guys can see which one we're working on. But you make sure that you put the pound sign, which let me tell you, I call it a pound sign, or a hashtag sign, if you will, in, and then you just type in the number up here at the top, and this is under your Design Space images. So it's M44A7D for this one. And this is a nice way to be able to find these flowers, super easy. And you can actually put more than one flower into your project. So we'll just go ahead and do all of them in one project. So we'll go back into images, and we're going to search for another one, because there's, I think there's 7 of them. Yeah, I think there's 7. So the next one is M4733C. And these are all going to make different style flowers like I showed you. So these are really, really fun. So let's insert the image for this one. And we're just going to do, like I said, we're just going to insert all of them. And you don't have to capitalize, so don't worry about that. So then we'll do M. This one's 3CBDF. Search that one. Go ahead and insert that. Then we'll go to our next image. And I am going to do these all in different colors so you guys can see them really easy. So we'll do M3D7D0. And we'll go ahead and insert this one. And then back into images. We've only got, I think, 3 more to go. So let's get these last couple in here. This only takes a minute. So we have M3F171. Go ahead and insert this one. I'm doing it this way so that you guys can see all the different styles based on their numbers. So the next one is M434FB. We'll insert that one. This one's one of my favorites. I like this one. It's cute. We're going to do one more. And the last one that we have is M3D7E1. And again, I am going to put all of the codes both on the flowers at the end here so you can see as we're making them. You'll see which flower is which. And then we will also go ahead and make sure that you guys have that list down here at the bottom. So they come off pretty small. So I'm just going to make them all the same size. I'm just going to select every flower here, and we're just going to make them bigger, because I want you guys to be able to see. Now I'm using 8.5 by 11 paper, so I'm going to make them as big as I can so that I can fit at least one flower per. I just want you guys to be able to see them. Typically I make my flowers about 5 to 6 inches, so about what they are here, but again, I just want you guys to be able to see them really easily on the camera. So I think this is a pretty good size. We could probably go a little bit bigger. Again, we're using 8.5 by 11 paper, and it's a 65-pound cardstock, so you just want to make sure that you, this will work. Okay. Now I do need to make sure that I change the color of this one flower because it's the same color as the spiky flower. And I just want to make sure that all my flowers are different colors. I like them different colors. And that way you guys can see the difference in your designs a little bit easier. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then they'll all come up on their own separate sheet. So when we go to click Make It, we'll need 7 sheets of paper. So you'll see that each one of them is different. So we'll go over to the machine, and I'll show you guys real quick how we're going to cut one of these. So we'll click Continue, and I have the maker. So I want to make sure that I set it to the correct cardstock for this. This is a light cardstock, so you're going to select light cardstock. On your Explorer, you are going to use your dial and turn it to light cardstock or whatever type of cardstock you are using. I just use a bit of a lighter version. I find it rolls a little bit easier. Let's go over to the machine. I'm going to load the mat and we can get ready to cut. Because of how large I made my flowers, I'm going to make sure that I place my paper on my mat. Instead of this way, I'm going to place it this direction. And I'm doing that because of the way that the flowers are shaped and sized, because we want to make sure that we're going to fit the whole flower on our paper. So make sure you press your paper down well. Go ahead and load it. You'll want to make sure that your mat is decently sticky. You don't need anything too crazy, but you do want to make sure it's decently sticky, and if it's not, it is going to pull up your flowers and rip them. If you have the maker, make sure you're far enough away from the wall that it can suck almost the whole thing, the whole mat in. And then, if you've explored, still make sure it's far away from the wall, but you don't have to make it too far. So as you can see, these are actually very, very quick to cut. It only takes them just a moment or two. This one is the scallopy type designed one. So you'll see it, and I'm going to show you guys just a quick way to pull these off the mat. I won't make you watch all of them cut. We'll just cut this one, and that way you guys can see, and then we'll get everything else cut off camera, and we will then be ready to assemble them. I'm so excited for you guys to see these. These are some of my favorite projects. They're so easy to do. They are just a lot of fun. And honestly, anybody can do these. These are great for kids. They're great for Girl Scouts and things like that, because you can pre-cut them and then they can assemble them. So we're going to go ahead and pull this off. Now, I couldn't have cut this any closer to the edge if I had tried. So let's just, congratulations me on that one. So we're going to go ahead and peel this off. Now, if you want to hold on and save this little bit of cardstock, you can. I don't typically. I usually will just cut it with like scissors and stuff and make confetti out of it. So here is our flower. You can see it's pretty large, but like I said, again, I wanted it big. So what I do is I flip my mat over just like this, and then I roll my mat so that my flower comes off, and I'm not pulling my flower off of the mat so much, as the mat is more being removed from the paper, not so much the paper from the mat, if that makes sense. And what that does is it keeps it from curling too much. So we're going to put that one to the side. I'm going to load my next sheet, and we're just going to keep going until we're done. I've cut out each of our flower designs. So this is just a little quick overview for you guys, and then the number that you need to type into design space. Don't forget, you do need to use the pound or hashtag for each of these. So this one's kind of the squared off one. This one has more of the deeper, wider scallop, a spiky, a more tight scallop look. This one here is more of a spiral. I'm trying to make sure you guys can see the numbers in there. This one is more of a spiky but yet wide petal. And then this one is really the most commonly used one, and this one has the more rounded off petals. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll show you guys how to assemble each one. We're going to start with the M44A7D. So this is the number that you type into design space to find this flower. This one has kind of the wider scallop. So you can use either your fingers or a quilling tool, or you can use, these are the Cricut reverse tweezers, and they're reversed because you squeeze them and they open, and when you're not squeezing, they are closed. So what you do is you take this end that doesn't have the dot in the center, so the furthest out end, and you hold those with your tweezers. And I'll usually squeeze these pretty tight with my fingers as I'm beginning this, so that you guys, so it doesn't fall off. And you just twirl it. But you want to make sure that you're keeping the tweezers fairly straight, and that your bottom of your flower, so the paper is lined up pretty evenly. And I make sure that is happening by putting the paper all the way to the bottom of that piece of the tweezer, right where it bends. So then you just twist them, and you can do these with drills and stuff, but I will caution you, if you have long hair and you do this with a drill, please, 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 please tie your hair back. I see a lot of women that'll post these videos and their hair is not tied back, and they get really close to their face, and it's so, so dangerous. So please just be very careful. This is a pretty easy way to do it. So I just turn my tweezers around and around and around, and I just make sure that it's staying nice and tight and nice and even. So you want to be sure that the base of your flower, the paper piece, is all staying fairly straight and even. And you just keep turning your tweezers. And as you're going, you'll see your flower is starting to form. And hopefully you guys can see that. I'll move that out a little bit so you can see it. And you just continually twist. Now, there are some people that will glue as they go. I am not one of those glue as I go kind of people. I will glue at the end, and then I put a bunch of glue on the bottom so that it holds it really nice and neat. Now, I usually at some point will pull my tweezers out, usually right about now when I get probably, I would say, about halfway through. Just because I find that I like to do this part holding my hand, because I can hold the top and hold the bottom to make sure that the base of my flower, so the paper, is all staying even with itself, because it does tend to get a little bit tough once you get a little bit further into your flower. So we just keep spinning and spinning. And again, these are going to be a lot bigger than the ones that you're going to make for your shadow boxes. I made these large so that you guys can see all the detail in them. But you could make them this large if you were making like a flower wall, or if you wanted to use them for some sort of decoration. You just kind of want to look at whatever you're going to put them on and judge about how large you want to make them. But for the shadow boxes, I usually do about 5 inches wide on all of it. So we're getting a little bit closer to the center, and you'll see that you're going to need to watch it just a little bit closer to make sure that it's staying tight and to make sure that it's staying even here with the bottom. So you can see my bottom is nice and even, and you're just going to want to keep going around and around and around until you get to this very point, which is like the last petal, and then it has this little, this would be like a tab. So what I do is I'll take my flower and I just release it just a little. You just hold it and let go, and hold it and let go a little bit, and let it pop up a little bit. And you're just going to do that a couple of times, because you don't want it too loose, but you also don't want it too tight, because you want it to look like a real flower. So you just let it go a little bit, and you just let it go a little at a time. Also still, while continuing to hold the base, because again, you want to make sure that the bottom of your flower is nice and even. So keep that in mind when you're doing this, and you can always retighten it if you needed to, if you make it too loose. But you just want to kind of release it a little bit in the center, and I always release it just a couple of times. And again, you just want to make sure that your center is pretty tight. Like that is pretty darn good. Hopefully you guys can see this. So when you go to do this little tab, you're going to take your little base of your flower here, and you're just going to take this around. Oops, and make sure you're holding your whole flower while you're doing this. Now, before I glue this base down, I will take a little bit of hot melt glue, and I will put it right on my flower base, because you'll see it's going to want to pop up a little bit. So I like to make it a nice little piece, and then I'll take my tab and I'll press my tab down. And it is very warm, so be careful when you're doing this. But you'll notice that, sorry, very hot. That now you have this lovely flower. Now, if you don't like how these petals on the outside stick out a little bit, because they do tend to on some of these different like shapes of flower, it is a little bit harder to get some of these outside ones. What I'll do with them is I actually bend them out a little bit, and I do that so that it looks a little more realistic. And I'll just go through and I'll just bend out my petals just a little, and I just do that with my hands. And you'll just go through and do that to some of your flowers, your flower petals. And as I drop it, tell you guys, not always perfect with these. And you're just going to go through and do that to all of your petals that you can really easily reach. And what that does is it's going to make your flower look a little more 3D, a little more realistic. But you just want to go through and just do that to pretty much, I would say, as many as you can really reach easily without getting too crazy and bending your whole entire flower. So I'll do a couple at a time, and I just do that just to these couple outsidey ones. And then this one, if it really bugs me, because like right now it's kind of bothering me, I put a little bit of glue right here, just a dab, and then I will just glue it up onto the flower. Because if you put these in a shadow box, you won't see that I glued that, so it won't be a big deal. But you can see how lovely this flower came out. I think this one looks really pretty. Oops, as I drop it again, because it's, again, hot melt glue is still hot. So this one is the M447D. So this one has a little bit fatter of a petal. So let's move on to the next one. We'll go ahead and do M3D70. That is a 0, 0, 0, 0. So remember that, 0. Again, always make sure that you are typing in the little hashtag. So we'll do the same thing. We're going to grab our petal and we're just going to turn it onto our tweezers, and I wasn't holding those tight enough, so they came untweezed a little bit. Oops. And then I slid it, and then all we're just going to do is just roll, roll, roll all the way around. Now this one is, if you look real close, it's much tighter of a petal shape. So this one is going to be much busier and much different looking from the first one. And that's what I like about these. They're so different from each other, and honestly, just like in nature, all the flowers will look slightly different, especially based on how tight you roll them and how you do them and what color you make them. So no two flowers should ever be the same. So don't fret if yours don't look exactly like mine, or the next one doesn't look exactly like the first one, because it's nature and they're not supposed to. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my tweezers out. I'm going to pull these ones out a little bit sooner just because this one is going to be a little bit tougher for me to roll with the tweezers, in my own opinion. I just have a tough time with this one. I've done this one several times. So again, all I do, I don't use a quelling tool. I don't use any of that. I just hold it between my fingers and I just roll. And that helps me keep the top and the bottom even, because I can feel if it's getting out of line, and this just presses it together. And again, you're going to want to make this nice and tight the first time. Oops, and then if you drop it, like I just did, don't worry, it's okay, because you're just going to loosen it eventually anyways. But you can just pull it and tighten it back up. So we're just going to hold it between our fingers and just twist. If you look, all I'm doing is twisting with my left hand, while my right hand helps it keep it even. I barely move my right hand. I move it just enough just so I can keep the petals and the base of this straight and even. So you can see it's going pretty quickly. Now I will say that this is one of those projects that your hands may hurt after you do it, because you do have to do quite a few of these, especially if you are doing a shadow box. And this one is a really long curl. This one has a lot to it, so this one does take a while. But this one's one of my faves because I just love the way it looks when it's finished. It's just a nice, fun petal. There's nothing too crazy about it. And you can see occasionally I have to kind of change my technique because my hand starts to cramp. So we're just going to tighten that, and we'll just switch hands real quick, and then we're just going to keep rolling. And it's like I said, sometimes you just need to switch your technique around a little bit, and it's okay to need to do that because eventually your hand does get tired. Now this one does have kind of a fat section in it, where it will feel like your petals aren't really lining up the top. So what I do is I stick my thumb down in the center, and then I use my index finger to keep the bottom straight, because the inside, if you look, I don't know how you can see that, but the inside does kind of sit inside of this one. It's just the way this one is made. I don't know why they did it like that, but I like to try to keep the bottom even, less than the top, because the bottom is where you need the even structure to glue it all together. So we've got a little bit more to go, and you can see that now it's getting thinner. So you'll see that it's not going to line up as perfectly, but that's the way this flower is supposed to look. So I try to keep the base even, and the top I'm not so worried about it being even, because that's the way this one goes. So I will stick a finger in the middle here where the inside is just a little bit thinner. Now again, you're going to do the same thing with this one. You're going to need to release it a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to loop this around, and then you're just going to take it and let go of it, and just take it and let go of it, and let go of it. And just let it out just a bit. You don't want to go too crazy, but you can make it as thin or as tight as you like. So it's a matter of personal preference on these. I like mine, this one I like a little bit looser than some of the others, just because I think it gives you a little more detail. So with this one, I will actually hand unspin it a little bit and see how much bigger that one got. Isn't that pretty? I love this one. So for this one, because of the way the base is, and you see how loose the base gets, I do put a little bit of hot melt glue along the base, and especially right here in the center, and that'll hold it. And then I will take this little dot and I put a bunch of glue on here, because you want to make sure that it's going to hold it. So you just take your little tab and you place it over, and you may have to add some more glue, because like see right here it's coming loose. So we're going to go ahead and add a little more glue, and I'm going to need to twist this just a little tighter. So you want to look at that before your glue dries, is how loose your outside layer is versus your inside layer. But this one, you can, while the glue is still drying, you can easily just twist it around. But again, nobody sees the bottom of these, so you can see the bottom's a little bit big, but you can always just easily trim it off. So this one, is M3D 7DO, or 0, sorry, 0. Look at that one. I love this one. I think this one is really fun. And this one looks really cool in all kinds of colors. So it's really, really fun in lots of colors. So let's move that one over to the side. Let's do the spiky one next. I like this one. This one is M4733C. This one is super spiky, really cute and fun. This one is like, it kind of reminds me of a fern sometimes once I put it together. So I did this one in green. But again, I'm just going to use my tweezers to get it started. With the spiky top on this one, it is a little more difficult to do just with your fingers. But I do like the tweezers for this one. So I just take my tweezers and again, try to keep the base even and straight. And then you just take your tweezers and you just roll them. And this one, I probably can do the whole thing on the tweezers. You just have to watch your base, but I may not do that because it's kind of, it does again get kind of cumbersome on the tweezers if they get too fat. So I do prefer to do mine by hand. But you will find people that tell you, oh, I like to do it with the quelling tool, or I like to do it with a drill, or I like to do it with my tweezers. And it's just a personal preference, and it's whatever works for you guys. So don't think just because I can do it with my fingers and I like to do it with my fingers means you have to. You can do it with whatever works and however works for you, because there is no really rules to crafting. And I hope you all know that. And that's why crafting is so much fun, because you don't have rules. You do whatever you like in whatever colors, in whatever design, however it works for you guys. So as you can see, this one is so spiky. It's super fun. This is just a really cute flower, and I think it makes a little more interesting pattern and texture when you're making some of these flowers. If you're going to do like a spray of them on a card or on a picture frame, this flower I always recommend adding because it is so cute. It just makes me happy. I like this one. So we have this pretty much all put together. So again, this one I usually don't loosen too much because it's supposed to be fairly tight. So I let it go just for a quick second. I just loosen it just a hair. I don't do anything too crazy with this one. And then all I do is I try to make sure that my base is nice and straight and flat. I put the glue on this part. Again, I just like to make sure there's quite a bit of glue. I take my tab and I fold it over. And if you look, we're going to fold that tab over. And we may need to puff out these petals a little bit just to make it a little more interesting. And I like to puff the petals out on a lot of these flowers. I don't like to leave them straight. They're not really meant to be straight because they're flowers. So you need to open them up a little bit. And with this one, you can just use your fingers and just easily run it right over all of your petals. And you'll see, look at how cool this one looks. So this one, again, is the M4733C. And it's really cool and spiky. So move that one off to the side. We'll get some of this extra glue out of the way. And we're going to move on to M3C BDF. And this one has kind of the fatter, taller scalps. This one reminds me a bit of a sunflower. So we'll go ahead and get this one done. I hope you guys are enjoying these flowers. If you guys have used these flowers, let me know. What did you use them for? Did you do shadow boxes? Did you use it for like a 3D canvas? These are so pretty on a 3D canvas. Perhaps a card. Maybe you use them in a paper bouquet. These are gorgeous for paper bouquets. I want to know what you guys did with them because these are some of like the funnest, most popular items that we can make with our Cricut. And so many people love doing these. And I have to admit, they are addicting. And once you start, you can't stop and you want to put them on everything. So what did you use your paper flowers for? I hope you guys are really having fun seeing these different flowers. There are so many different versions of these. These are just a couple that you can get in Design Space. Now do keep in mind that if you don't have access, they are 99 cents a piece. But if you have access, they are included in your subscription. Remember too, with the monthly access, you can always sign up and cancel at any time. So if you know that you're going to spend maybe more than $10 on a few designs that are included in the access, I would just sign up for that. And then when you're done and you know you're not going to use it for maybe a month or two, just go ahead and unsubscribe for that month or two. And you can always sign right back up, no penalties, no big deal if you decide that you're going to use it again. I have access right now, but I usually cancel it in the summertime because I don't use it quite as much. And I also don't I don't really honestly use it too much during the winter, but right now I have it because I wanted to show you guys these awesome flowers. And there's a few other things that they've had lately that I really like. So again, with this one I do loosen it, and I loosen this one a decent amount. And then again, you're gonna take the bottom, and I usually fold that out of the way, take the bottom, glue this. Again, I like to glue this. People glue them as they go, but for me, I don't like to do that because I like to twist it, and then I like to loosen it. So you keep that in mind when you're making yours. And then you just, like a lid. I guess that's maybe the better like name for that tab. It's kind of like a bottom lid, so it's a nice lid. And then again with this, you're just gonna take it and you're gonna puff your petals out. And that kind of, a lot of people complain, well, my petals on my edges, they stick out too much. Well, that's because you got to puff the rest of your petals out, guys. Because once you do that, look at the difference that that makes in this flower. Look at that. I think this flower is so cute. So again, this one is M3C BDF. So let's move on to our next one. This one is like super spiky. It's really, really cute. This one is M3F171. I know this is a lot of just watching me twist these, but I really hope this is giving you guys some good tips on making these flowers. And you can see how quickly you can really get through quite a bit of them, especially once you kind of get a rhythm going. And once you get these tweezers and stuff all within, you know, once you just kind of get the rhythm. So we're going to take the tweezers out. I'm going to squish this together because I was getting a little off-centered. And then all I do, again, and sometimes with these, you can just use your fingers and just hold one side and the other. And then as you go, you can just line up your bottom. But you can see how quickly you guys can do these. So I know that you guys can knock these flowers out super fast and make some really fun projects. These are wonderful too if you're going to use like them in a centerpiece for a wedding. These get so many compliments because they're different. Not everyone's doing them yet. So this might be something to consider for you brides, mothers of the bride, something to show them that they maybe didn't consider. And these are great if you have allergies and can't have real flowers at your wedding. Me. I did paper flowers. I did not do these. I do have a tutorial for the ones I did. If you guys want to see those, just look up alternative to rolled flowers. So again, this one, see how tight this one is? I don't like it. So I just let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go a couple times. And I actually really like it pretty loose on this style. I like the spikes to show a little bit more. So again, I glue the bottom every time. I always say glue the bottom. Take your roll around. Take your lid, place your lid on, and then let that dry for just a moment. And then with this one, I don't usually bend the petals out too much. I will just sort of adjust them a little bit, but this one's pretty well done. Just give it 1 second to dry. So this one again, you guys, is M3F171. This one has the spikier petal. All right, we got two more. This one has kind of the rounded scallops. This is, again, one of the most populars. So this one is M3D7E1. Again, make sure you are putting in that little hashtag mark or you won't find these in Design Space. They will not come up. I don't know why Design Space does that, but it is just their way of searching. So just make sure you're using that when you are searching these. So we're just gonna roll our flower. And again, this one's coming a little bit off, but we'll just roll it. And again, I just keep my fingers on it to keep it even. And this one is one of the most popular, and I apologize for that. I don't know why my phone decided to go off. I have the ringer off, but we'll just work with it. And here we go. All right, I'm gonna pull these tweezers right out, and I'm gonna go to doing this with my finger. Again, I find that I can start the beginning with the tweezers, but then once it gets kind of fat, I just can't control it like I would like to. So I like to just go with it, my fingers, and it just takes just a moment to twist these. So hopefully you guys are having so much fun. I know it's been about 20 minutes to make all these, but once you start going, and I'm going pretty slow so that you guys can truly see how to make them, but once you start going, and if you're just sitting there watching Netflix or whatever you're watching, these will go so quickly for you. You won't even realize that you've done like 50 by the time you're done. And most shadow boxes, depending on your size, don't take a ton of them, especially if you do them at about 5 inches. You can sometimes do some of the smaller shadow boxes with just 9, which is really nice. And they look very, very pretty. I did one that's got 56 of them, but it's a huge shadow box, and it has the lyrics to our first dance from our wedding in it and the flowers that we used in our wedding. So that one did take quite a bit of time and quite a bit of flowers, but it was very large, and we wanted it to be very obvious what was inside. So we wanted to make our flowers very large, and we wanted a lot of them because we had them all over our entire wedding. So now again, we have the tab, but I want to loosen this one because it's, if you look how tight it is. It doesn't really look like a flower. So if you just let go a little bit, just let go. And then you just find where you're comfortable with it. And I think that's pretty close. So I just take this, again, flip it over. And I like to fold the tab out of the way because you can always fold it back and it won't be noticeable. And then I just make sure I get some glue all over. And I fold my tab over. Hopefully you guys can see this. I know it's kind of hard to really depict this in a video. It's very difficult. And then I noticed that like I've got some places that maybe just could use a little bit of glue. So I'll just take a little glue and I'll just dab it around there. And we'll just make sure that everything is stuck together out and not burn my fingers. Now with this one, I do like to push my petals out a little bit because of the way it's designed. So let's let the glue dry for just a second, and I'll just remind you guys that this one is M3D 7E1, and that is a 1, not an L. So all we're going to do is we just fold out our petals. And again, just like you did on some of those other ones, you just take a few petals and you just kind of pull them apart and away from the middle of the project. And I just find that it gives you just a little more depth. So there you go. This one again is M3D 7E1, and we are on our last one. This one is one of my favorites. I think this one looks really cool when it's done. It's just different. It's not something you see all the time. So this is M43 4FB. So we're going to go ahead again, tweezers to start. This one just looks kind of nifty when you're finished. I don't know, I just really, really like this one. I think it's so different and so fun, and I'm not squeezing my tweezer tight enough. So I gotta get this one started. This one just has such a different design to it that you just don't see everywhere. I don't even know what flower it reminds me of. I'm not even sure it really does look like a flower in my opinion, but I think it's fun and different, and it adds, again, some different texture and depth if you're going to do multiple shape or flowers in here. I think this one's a great one to add. So I've gotten as far as I want to go with the tweezers because they're just cumbersome sometimes, and then you just twist between your fingers. So we're just going to keep twisting, and this will be one where we fan out the petals just a little bit on it just so that we get a nice look, because if you look right now it kind of looks like nothing, right? I mean, it's kind of weird, but once you loosen it and fan out those petals, it becomes a really cool looking flower. Now I will say, sometimes if you know that you're going to keep your petals and your flower really tight, you could glue it as you go. But because this one I want to loosen, I'm not going to glue the bottom. That's the reason I don't glue as I go, because sometimes I do want them looser. Even if it's something that normally I wouldn't necessarily make looser, I will look at it and go, well, maybe this time I do want it looser. So I just don't like to glue as I go. And some people do, and like I said, it's all a personal preference. So with this one, we're just going to let it go just a little bit in the center. Just doot, doot, doot. And I think that's pretty good. So we'll just take the tab, fold it back just a little bit, oops, and not press the top down. Make sure the bottom's even again, because I messed that up. And then we'll take the glue, put it around the bottom. And then I like to take this and I fold the tab down, or the lid if you will, and we're just going to hold it until it's pretty dry. And then all I do is I just take the petals again and we just fold them out. This is very much just like pretty much every paper project where you kind of need to add a little 3D element to it just to make it look a little more realistic. And with this one, there's no real rhyme or reason to how you have to fold these petals out. You just can kind of grab them and fold them out. So this one I think is like a really fun flower. It's just different and cool. And again, this one is M43 4FB, and this was our last one. So I'll show you an overview and we'll be all finished. So here's a nice overview of all of our flowers. Again, we have, and I'll move this out of the way just a little bit so you guys can see all the names. I realize you kind of couldn't see that one. So just make sure when you go to Design Space that you are typing in this exact number, and it will bring up each of these flowers here for you. I hope you guys had a great time learning how to do these. They're super fun, super easy,
Really a wonderful way to add a little bit of flair to your different decor. If you have any questions, make sure you leave those in the comments down below. I'm always happy to answer those for you. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos all the time. I hope you guys had a lot of fun learning how to do this. Have a great day and happy crafting.